In the vast reaches of space, where stars burned like tiny candles against an endless black canvas, humanity had finally earned its place among the stars. For decades, they had been part of the Galactic Council, a coalition of advanced civilizations that governed the galaxy with promises of peace and progress. But beneath the surface of unity, cracks had begun to form. Ethan Carter stood tall in the grand chamber of Vega Prime, the heart of the Council's operations. The room was enormous, filled with representatives from dozens of alien species. Each sat or hovered in their own unique way, their forms ranging from sleek and insect-like to towering and crystalline. Above them, holographic displays shimmered with maps of the galaxy, showing trade routes, resource allocations, and disputed territories. Ethan adjusted the collar of his formal suit, feeling the weight of every eye, or equivalent, on him. He took a deep breath before speaking. His voice echoed through the chamber, calm but firm. For years, we have contributed to this council. We have shared our knowledge, our resources, and our strength. Yet, what have we received in return? Unequal trade agreements, restrictions on our exploration efforts, and now, the denial of our rightful seat on the High Tribunal. A low murmur rippled through the chamber. Some nodded in agreement, while others shifted uncomfortably. A representative from the Varnuk, a species with shimmering blue skin and elongated limbs, spoke up. "Humanity is young," he said, his tone dismissive. "Your kind has barely scratched the surface of what it means to be part of this galaxy. Patience is required." Ethan clenched his fists briefly before relaxing them. He knew anger wouldn't serve him here. Instead, he continued, "Patience has brought us nothing but stagnation. Our colonies are taxed unfairly. Our ships are searched without cause. And when we ask for support, we are met with silence. Is this truly the future you envisioned for the Council?" The chamber grew quieter. Even those who disagreed couldn't deny the truth in his words. Humanity wasn't the only species dissatisfied with the Council's leadership, but few had dared to speak so boldly. Rachel Monroe watched the scene unfold from her small apartment back on Earth. She sat cross-legged on her couch, a tablet glowing softly in her lap. As a journalist covering interstellar politics, she had seen countless debates dissolve into meaningless arguments. But this felt different. Ethan's speech wasn't just rhetoric. It was a declaration. Her phone buzzed beside her. It was a message from her editor. "Get ready. This could change everything." Rachel sighed and leaned back, staring at the ceiling. If humanity left the Council, what would happen next? Would they thrive on their own, or would they crumble under the pressure of isolation? Back in the chamber, Ethan paused, letting his words hang in the air. Then, with deliberate slowness, he turned to face the Council leader, a towering figure known as Zoreth, whose body seemed made of shifting light. "We cannot continue like this," Ethan said. "If the Council refuses to treat us as equals, then we must forge our own path." Zoreth's expression didn't change, but there was a flicker of something, perhaps surprise, perhaps irritation, in his glowing eyes. "You would abandon the protections of the Council?" he asked, his voice resonating like distant thunder. "The galaxy is not kind to those who stand alone." Ethan straightened his shoulders. "Then we will learn to stand stronger." With that, he stepped back, signaling the end of his address. The holographic doors slid shut behind him as he exited the chamber, leaving stunned silence in his wake. Outside, reporters swarmed him, their questions overlapping in a chaotic din. Ethan ignored them, focusing instead on the enormity of what he had just done. The day humans left the Galactic Council was not just another chapter in history. It was the beginning of something new. Whether it would lead to triumph or disaster remained to be seen. The news of humanity's departure from the Galactic Council spread faster than anyone expected. Within hours, every corner of Earth and its colonies buzzed with reactions. Some people celebrated the decision, waving flags and chanting slogans about independence. Others gathered in quiet groups, their faces etched with worry about what the future might hold. Rachel Monroe walked through the crowded streets of New Chicago, her tablet in hand, capturing footage for her next article. The city was alive with emotion, hope, fear, anger, all swirling together like a storm. At a small cafe, she sat down to review her notes. Across the table, an older man named Harold shook his head as he sipped his coffee. "It's madness," he muttered. "We're cutting ties with the most powerful group in the galaxy. What happens when they decide to punish us?" Rachel nodded politely but didn't respond. She had heard this argument countless times already. Still, Harold's words lingered in her mind. Was he right? Could humanity survive on its own, or were they walking straight into danger? Meanwhile, far above Earth, aboard the orbital research station *EOS*, Isaac Grant stared at a wall of monitors. He was a scientist by trade, more comfortable with equations and data than politics. But even he couldn't ignore the ripple effects of Ethan Carter's announcement. For days, strange signals had been detected coming from deep space. They weren't natural phenomena. They seemed almost deliberate. At first, Isaac thought it might be interference from nearby satellites, but the patterns were too consistent. He leaned closer to one screen, squinting at the lines of code scrolling past. Something about them felt familiar, though he couldn't quite place why. His colleague, Priya, entered the lab carrying a tray of snacks. "Still obsessing over those signals?" she asked, setting the tray down. Isaac shrugged. "They're not random. I think someone, or something, is trying to communicate." Priya raised an eyebrow. "You mean aliens? Or maybe the Council messing with us?" "Could be either," Isaac admitted. "But there's no harm in checking." As the hours passed, Isaac became more convinced that these signals were significant. He ran simulations, cross-referenced frequencies, and even dug into old archives for clues. Finally, late into the night, he found something, a faint echo buried within the static. It matched a pattern used by the Galactic Council decades ago, back when humanity first joined. Whoever was sending these messages knew how to speak the Council's language. Excited, Isaac called Rachel. Though they hadn't spoken much since college, he trusted her judgment. When she answered, he wasted no time explaining his discovery. "I don't know what it means yet," he said, pacing the narrow confines of his lab. "But it feels connected to everything happening right now." Rachel listened carefully, her reporter instincts kicking in. "Do you think the Council is spying on us?" "Maybe," Isaac replied. "Or maybe it's something else entirely. Either way, I need your help getting this story out there." Rachel hesitated. Reporting on politics was one thing, but diving into cryptic space signals felt risky. Still, she couldn't deny the intrigue. "All right," she said finally. "Send me everything you've got. Let's see if we can make sense of it." Over the next few days, Rachel pored over Isaac's findings. She interviewed experts, analyzed public statements from Council officials, and pieced together a narrative that hinted at deeper tensions brewing in the galaxy. Her article sparked widespread debate. Some dismissed it as paranoia, while others saw it as proof that humanity's exit from the Council wasn't just symbolic, it was a catalyst for change. In the shadows of space, however, darker forces stirred. Unbeknownst to Rachel or Isaac, their investigation had drawn attention, not just from the Council, but from factions eager to exploit the chaos. The signals Isaac detected were only the beginning of a much larger puzzle, one that would force humanity to confront hard truths about its place in the universe. For now, though, life went on. People returned to work, children played in parks, and leaders debated the next steps. Yet beneath the surface, uncertainty loomed. The day humans left the Galactic Council marked the start of a new chapter, one filled with both promise and peril. Weeks had passed since humanity's departure from the Galactic Council, and tensions continued to simmer. In the Terran Defense Fleet, Maya Hughes prepared for another routine patrol mission. A skilled pilot with sharp instincts, she had spent years navigating the vast emptiness of space. Her sleek fighter ship, nicknamed *Shadow*, was her pride and joy. As she ran pre-flight checks, Her mind drifted to recent rumors about alien fleets gathering near contested regions of the galaxy. No one knew for sure who they were or what they wanted, but the implications were troubling. Maya's thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime from her console. Incoming transmissions often meant updates from command, but this one was different. The signal was weak, fragmented, and heavily encrypted, a puzzle waiting to be solved. She frowned, tapping commands into her interface. Decoding messages wasn't her specialty, but something about this felt urgent. After a few minutes of tinkering, fragments of text began to appear on her screen. Words like mobilization and border breach stood out, hinting at coordinated movements among certain factions within the Council. Curious and concerned, Maya decided to share the discovery with someone she trusted. Lucas Bennett, a tech specialist stationed at the same base. Lucas was known for his knack for cracking codes and his dry sense of humor. When Maya found him in the mess hall, he was halfway through a sandwich, crumbs dusting the front of his uniform. "Got a minute?" she asked, sliding into the seat across from him. Lucas raised an eyebrow. "Depends. Are you here to lecture me about cleaning up after myself again?" "No," Maya said, ignoring his smirk. She handed him a data chip containing the intercepted transmission. "I need your help with this." Lucas wiped his hands on a napkin and inserted the chip into his portable terminal. His expression turned serious as he scanned the contents. "This is interesting," he murmured. "Looks like some council members aren't happy we left." "Yeah, I got that much," Maya replied. "But what are they planning? And why send encrypted messages instead of just talking openly?" Lucas leaned back in his chair, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. "Could be a lot of reasons. Maybe they don't want their allies, or enemies, to know what they're up to. Or maybe they're testing us, seeing how we react." Maya crossed her arms. "Either way, it doesn't sound good. What if they're planning to attack our colonies? We can't just sit around and wait for something to happen." Lucas nodded. "Agreed. But going public with this won't do much unless we have solid proof. Let me dig deeper. If there's more to these signals, I'll find it." As Lucas worked on decrypting the rest of the message, Maya returned to her duties, though her focus wavered. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something bigger. Back in her quarters later that evening, she pulled up star charts on her personal tablet, tracing potential routes where enemy fleets might gather. The maps showed clusters of unclaimed systems near the edge of human territory, areas rich in resources but lightly defended. It made sense that the Council would target those regions first. The next morning, Lucas called her to the lab. His face was pale, his usual sarcasm replaced by quiet urgency. "You need to see this," he said, gesturing to a holographic display. On it was a visual representation of fleet movements, mapped based on the decoded messages. Dozens of ships were converging on a single point, an uninhabited system near the border. "This isn't random," Lucas explained. "They're positioning themselves strategically. If they strike, it'll cut off supply lines to several colonies." Maya clenched her fists. "We have to warn Command." Lucas hesitated. "And say what?" "That we hacked Council communications. They'll bury this before anyone listens." He was right, and Maya knew it. Protocol dictated strict rules about intercepting alien transmissions, especially during such tense times. Still, she couldn't ignore the evidence staring them in the face. "Then we tell someone outside the chain of command," she said firmly. "Someone who can act without waiting for permission." Lucas sighed but nodded reluctantly. Together, they compiled the data into a secure file and sent it anonymously to Rachel Monroe, the journalist who had recently covered Isaac Grant's mysterious space signals. If anyone could shine a light on this, it was her. Unbeknownst to Maya and Lucas, however, their actions hadn't gone unnoticed. Hidden observers within the Council monitored their every move, piecing together clues about humanity's growing resistance. For now, the humans remained unaware of the web closing around them. But in the cold silence of space, plans were already in motion, plans that would test the limits of courage, loyalty, and survival. Isaac Grant sat in the dim glow of his workstation aboard the orbital research station *EOS*, his eyes scanning lines of code that flickered across multiple screens. The strange signals he had detected weeks ago still haunted him, their patterns too deliberate to dismiss as mere interference. Late nights and endless cups of coffee had become his routine as he pieced together fragments of data buried deep within ancient archives. What he uncovered next sent a chill down his spine. Hidden among forgotten files from the Galactic Council's early days was a project labeled Genesis Nexus. At first glance, it seemed like just another scientific initiative, until Isaac dug deeper. The documents revealed that Genesis Nexus was no ordinary experiment. It described a device capable of reshaping entire star systems, altering planets, redirecting asteroid fields, and even stabilizing unstable stars. The implications were staggering. If such technology existed, it could be used to create paradise, or unleash devastation on an unimaginable scale. But there was more. According to the records, the project had been abandoned due to ethical concerns. Its creators feared the consequences of giving any one species control over such power. Yet hints scattered throughout the files suggested that parts of the device might still exist, hidden away in remote corners of the galaxy. Isaac leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. Whoever found Genesis Nexus would hold unimaginable influence over the universe, and if hostile forces got to it first. His thoughts were interrupted by a ping from his communication panel. Rachel Monroe's face appeared on the screen, her expression tense. "Isaac, I need to talk to you," she said without preamble. "I've received some intel about fleet movements near our borders. This isn't just political posturing. They're planning something big." Isaac nodded grimly. "You're not going to believe this, but I think I know why. I've been digging into those signals we talked about, and I found something called Genesis Nexus. It's a weapon, or maybe a tool. Either way, it's dangerous." Rachel's eyes widened. "A weapon? Are you sure?" "I'm sure enough to be worried," Isaac replied. "If someone finds it before we do, they could reshape the galaxy however they want. And based on what you're saying, I don't think it's humans leading the charge." Rachel hesitated, then nodded. "We need to get this information out there. But how? People are already scared after leaving the council. If word gets out about something like this, it could cause panic." "I know," Isaac admitted, "but keeping it quiet isn't an option either. Look, let's start small. Share it with people we trust, people who can help us figure out what to do next." Rachel agreed, and together they decided to bring two others into the loop. Maya Hughes and Lucas Bennett. Both had proven themselves resourceful and trustworthy during recent events. Over a secure channel, Rachel explained the situation to them. Maya listened intently, her jaw tightening as the gravity of the discovery sank in. Lucas, ever the problem solver, immediately began brainstormers ways to locate Genesis Nexus. "We'll need coordinates," Lucas said, pulling up a galactic map on his terminal. "If the council hid this thing, they wouldn't have left it lying around in plain sight. We're talking about uncharted space here." Isaac nodded. "That's true. But the files mention a sector known as the Obsidian Expanse. It's barely explored, even by the council. If Genesis Nexus is anywhere, that's where it'll be." Maya crossed her arms, her mind racing. "Even if we find it, getting there won't be easy. That region is crawling with hazards, pirates, rogue AI drones, unstable gravity wells. Not exactly a Sunday drive." "Then we'll have to be careful," Rachel said firmly. "This isn't just about us anymore. If Genesis Nexus falls into the wrong hands, it could mean the end of everything we've built." As the group discussed their next steps, none of them realized they were being watched. Unbeknownst to them, a shadowy faction within the Galactic Council had intercepted fragments of their conversation. Zarnak, leader of the Krill Syndicate, a group infamous for its ruthlessness, smiled coldly as he reviewed the stolen data. Humanity had stumbled onto something far greater than they understood. And now, thanks to their carelessness, Zarnak knew exactly where to look. For Isaac and his friends, time was running out. Their quest to uncover the truth about Genesis Nexus had only just begun, but already the stakes were higher than they could have imagined. In the vastness of space, secrets rarely stayed hidden for long, and the cost of finding them was often paid in blood. The decision to meet with the Krill Syndicate was not made lightly. Ethan Carter, Maya Hughes, Lucas Bennett, and Rachel Monroe gathered in a secure briefing room aboard the Terran Defense Fleet's main command station. The air was thick with tension as they reviewed the details of the proposed alliance. Zarnak, the leader of the Krill, had reached out through encrypted channels, offering assistance in locating Genesis Nexus in exchange for access to its technology. His message was clear. The Council's stranglehold on power needed to end, and humanity could be a valuable ally in achieving that goal. Ethan paced the length of the room, his brow furrowed. "We don't know if we can trust him," he said finally. "The Krill aren't exactly known for their honesty." Rachel nodded, tapping her pen against the table. "True, but we also can't ignore what's at stake. If the Council gets Genesis Nexus first, or worse, someone like Zarnak, we're looking at disaster." Maya leaned forward, her arms crossed. "Even if we agree to this, how do we know it's not a trap? They could be using us to find it, and then cut us loose." Lucas chimed in, adjusting his glasses. "Or worse, ambush us once we lead them straight to it. But let's face it, we're out of options. We can't do this alone." After a long silence, Ethan sighed and looked at each of them. "All right, we'll go, but we stay sharp. If anything feels off, we pull out immediately." The meeting was set to take place on a neutral asteroid base called Outpost Delta 9, a crumbling relic from an old mining operation. It was far enough from Council-controlled space to avoid detection, yet close enough for both parties to reach quickly. As their shuttle approached the outpost, the team couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a lion's den. The interior of Delta 9 was dimly lit, its metal walls rusted and scarred from years of neglect. A group of Krill operatives awaited them in a large hangar bay, their sleek black armor glinting under flickering lights. Zarnak stood at the center, his towering frame exuding authority. Unlike many of his kind, who wore masks to conceal their insectoid features, Zarnak's face was exposed, sharp mandibles framing cold, calculating eyes. "Welcome, humans," he said, his voice smooth but edged with menace. "You've taken a bold step leaving the Council. Perhaps you are ready to join those who seek true freedom." Ethan stepped forward, his expression calm but guarded. "We're here to discuss Genesis Nexus. Nothing more." Zarnak tilted his head slightly, studying Ethan like a predator sizing up its prey. "Of course, let us speak plainly then. My people have resources and knowledge that could aid your search. In return, we ask only shared access to the device." Rachel exchanged uneasy glances with the others. Something about Zarnak's demeanor felt wrong, though she couldn't pinpoint why. She spoke up cautiously. "How do we know you won't turn on us once you have what you want?" Zarnak chuckled, a low, unsettling sound. "Trust must be earned, yes. But consider this. Without our help, you may never find Genesis Nexus at all. And without yours, my people might decide Earth is easier prey than the Council." The thinly veiled threat hung in the air, but Ethan didn't flinch. "If we work together, it has to be on equal terms. No tricks." Before Zarnak could respond, alarms blared throughout the outpost. Red warning lights flashed as the sound of distant explosions echoed through the corridors. Chaos erupted as Council envoys stormed the hangar, weapons drawn. Their leader, a Varna commander named Syra, stepped forward, her shimmering blue form radiating authority. "You dare conspire with terrorists." Syra spat, glaring at Ethan. "This betrayal will not go unpunished." Maya reacted instantly, grabbing a nearby console to seal the hangar doors, while Lucas hacked into the outpost's security system. Gunfire erupted as the two groups clashed, forcing the humans and Krill to fight side by side despite their mistrust. Amid the chaos, Zarnak revealed his true colors, snatching classified data from a fallen council operative before disappearing into the shadows. As the team narrowly escaped aboard their shuttle, battered but alive, one thing became painfully clear: they had underestimated everyone involved. The council, the Krill, even themselves, all were playing a dangerous game, and Genesis Nexus was the prize that could tip the balance of power forever. The shuttle carrying Ethan, Maya, Lucas, and Rachel hurtled through space, its engines straining as they fled Outpost Delta 9. Behind them, the asteroid base was engulfed in flames, a casualty of the Council's ambush. The team sat in stunned silence, their bodies battered but alive. None of them spoke for several minutes, each lost in their own thoughts about what had just happened. Finally, Rachel broke the quiet. "That wasn't just an attack," she said, her voice trembling with anger. "They knew we were there. Someone tipped them off." Ethan nodded grimly, his knuckles white as he gripped the armrest of his seat. "Zarnak. He played us from the start. This whole meeting was a setup." Maya clenched her fists, her sharp eyes fixed on the viewport ahead. "And now he's got whatever data he stole from those council envoys. If Genesis Nexus is real, he knows more than we do." Lucas leaned back in his seat, running a hand through his hair. "We walked right into it. But at least we're still breathing. For now." The weight of Zarnak's betrayal settled heavily on the group. They had trusted him, or at least tried to, only to find themselves pawns in his larger game. What scared them most was the realization that Zarnak wasn't alone in seeking Genesis Nexus. The Council's brutal intervention made it clear they viewed the device as a threat worth killing for. Humanity's small team was caught between two powerful forces, neither of which had their best interests at heart. Back on Earth, news of the failed alliance spread quickly. Public opinion shifted overnight. Many who had initially supported leaving the Galactic Council began to question whether humanity could survive without its protection. Protests erupted in major cities, with some calling for reconciliation, while others demanded stronger defenses against potential attacks. Governments scrambled to address the growing unrest, but no one had answers. Rachel published an article detailing the events at Delta 9, careful to omit sensitive details about Genesis Nexus. Her report painted the Council as aggressors and Zarnak as an opportunist, sparking outrage among readers. Some accused her of bias, while others praised her for exposing the truth. Regardless, her story reignited debates about humanity's future. Meanwhile, Ethan worked tirelessly to unite Earth's fractured leadership. He called emergency meetings with colony governors, military commanders, and corporate executives, urging them to set aside differences and prepare for war. "We don't have time to argue," he told them during one heated session. "If we don't stand together now, we'll fall apart when the real fight begins." His words resonated with many, though not all were convinced. A faction of leaders argued that rejoining the Council might be safer than facing threats alone. Others believed humanity should forge alliances with other dissident species, even if it meant working with groups like the Krill Syndicate. As tensions rose, Isaac Grant continued his research aboard *EOS*, using fragments of the stolen Council data recovered by Zarnak and intercepted by Lucas during their escape. He pieced together new clues about Genesis Nexus. The device's location remained elusive, but he uncovered references to a derelict station orbiting a dying star in the Obsidian Expanse. It matched descriptions from the ancient files, suggesting it might hold the key to finding the device. Isaac shared his findings with the team, who agreed that locating the station was their next move. But the journey would be perilous. The Obsidian Expanse was notorious for its hazards. Black holes, radiation storms, and rogue AI drones patrolling abandoned ruins. Few ships ventured there, and fewer returned. Maya volunteered to lead the mission, knowing her piloting skills would be crucial. "If anyone can get us through that mess, it's me," she said confidently, though her tone betrayed a hint of fear. As plans came together, The team couldn't ignore the risks. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and unprepared for the dangers ahead. Yet they pressed on, driven by a shared belief that humanity's survival depended on stopping Genesis Nexus from falling into the wrong hands. Far away, Zarnak studied the data he had stolen, a sinister smile spreading across his face. Humanity had proven resourceful, but they were only delaying the inevitable. In the end, power always belonged to those willing to take it, and Zarnak intended to claim Genesis Nexus for himself, no matter the cost. Ethan Carter stood on a raised platform in the heart of New Chicago, addressing a crowd that stretched as far as the eye could see. The city square was packed with people, some holding banners, others clutching children, all listening intently to his words. Behind him, massive screens displayed images of Earth's diverse landscapes, lush forests, sprawling cities, and distant colonies among the stars. This was a moment to remind humanity of what they were fighting for. For too long, Ethan began, his voice steady but filled with conviction. We've let fear divide us. Fear of the Council, fear of the unknown, fear of each other. But now we face a choice. We can crumble under that fear, or we can rise above it. His speech had been carefully crafted, not just to rally support, but to unite factions that had spent years bickering over resources, territory, and power. Colony leaders who once refused to cooperate were now shaking hands in backroom meetings. Corporate magnates who hoarded technology for profit were sharing their innovations for the greater good. Even rival military units agreed to combine forces, pooling ships, weapons, and personnel into a single defense fleet. Rachel Monroe watched from the sidelines, her camera recording every word. She had reported on countless speeches, but this one felt different. There was a raw energy in the air, a sense that something monumental was about to happen. People cheered, some even cried, as Ethan spoke of resilience and hope. For the first time since leaving the Galactic Council, humanity seemed truly united. Meanwhile, Isaac Grant worked feverishly aboard *EOS*, refining the coordinates of the derelict station in the Obsidian Expanse. He pored over star charts, cross-referencing them with fragments of data recovered from Zarnak's stolen files. Every new discovery brought both excitement and dread. The station was real. It had to be. But its location deep within one of the galaxy's most dangerous regions made reaching it nearly impossible. Lucas Bennett joined Isaac in the lab, bringing fresh calculations and simulations. Together, they mapped potential routes, identifying areas where black holes or radiation storms might pose the greatest threat. If we time it right, Lucas said, pointing to a narrow corridor between two collapsing stars, we can slip through here without getting torn apart. Isaac nodded, though his expression remained grim. It's risky, but it's our best shot. Let's just hope Maya's up for it. Maya Hughes was already preparing *Shadow* for the mission. Her sleek fighter ship gleamed under the station's artificial lights as she ran diagnostics and installed extra shielding. Supplies were loaded carefully. Emergency rations, medical kits, spare parts, all essentials for a journey into uncharted territory. As much as she trusted her skills, Maya knew this trip would test her limits. Before departure, the team gathered one last time to review their plan. Ethan reminded them of the stakes. If Genesis Nexus fell into the wrong hands, the consequences would ripple across the galaxy. Rachel promised to keep the public informed, using her platform to ensure humanity stayed united while they were gone. Isaac handed Maya a data chip containing everything he had uncovered about the station, along with instructions for accessing its systems. We don't know what we'll find out there, Ethan said, looking each of them in the eye. But remember why we're doing this. Not for glory, not for revenge, but because it's the right thing to do. As the shuttle carrying Maya, Lucas, and Isaac launched into the void, Earth grew smaller behind them. The sight filled Maya with a mix of pride and unease. Pride, because humanity had come together in a way no one thought possible. Unease, because she knew the road ahead would be fraught with danger. Far away, Zarnak monitored their progress, his smile widening as he plotted his next move. Humanity's unity only made them more predictable and easier to exploit. In the shadows, other forces stirred, drawn by whispers of Genesis Nexus. The derelict station awaited them all, its secrets hidden beneath layers of dust and decay. Whatever lay inside would change everything, for better or worse. The journey to the Obsidian Expanse was anything but smooth. Maya Hughes gripped the controls of Shadow Asterisk, her knuckles white, as the ship shuddered violently. Around them, the void of space twisted and churned, distorted by the gravitational pull of a nearby black hole. Streams of radiation painted the viewport in eerie hues of green and violet, making it hard to tell where reality ended and illusion began. Lucas sat hunched over his terminal, monitoring their trajectory with intense focus. "We're almost through the corridor," he muttered, his voice tense. "But if we drift even a fraction off course, we're done for." Isaac clutched the armrests of his seat, trying not to let his nerves show. "Just keep us steady, Maya. We can't afford any mistakes." Maya didn't respond. Her full attention was on the controls, her fingers dancing across the interface as she adjusted thrusters and compensated for shifts in gravity. The narrow passage between two collapsing stars was their only route to the derelict station, but it felt like threading a needle while blindfolded. Alarms blared intermittently, warning of fluctuating energy fields and structural strain, but Maya silenced them with quick taps, unwilling to let distractions break her concentration. After what felt like hours, the turbulence subsided, and the ship emerged into calmer territory. Ahead, the derelict station loomed against the backdrop of a dying star. Its surface was pockmarked with craters, its skeletal frame glowing faintly in the dim light. It looked ancient, abandoned long before humanity had ventured into the stars. "There it is," Isaac whispered, leaning forward to get a better look. "Genesis Nexus has to be inside." Maya set the ship down on a crumbling landing pad, the hull groaning as it touched down. The team suited up quickly, checking their gear one last time before stepping onto the station's surface. The airlock hissed open, revealing a dark, dusty interior. Their helmet lights cut through the gloom, illuminating rusted walls and broken machinery. "This place hasn't been touched in centuries," Lucas said, brushing his hand over a console thick with grime. "If Genesis Nexus is here, finding it won't be easy." They split up to cover more ground, each carrying a scanner tuned to detect anomalies. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the sound of their boots crunching against debris. Every step felt heavier than the last, as if the weight of history pressed down on them. It wasn't long before Isaac found something, a door etched with symbols matching those from the Council's archives. "Over here," he called, waving the others over. Together, they worked to pry it open, revealing a staircase spiraling downward into darkness. At the bottom, they discovered a massive chamber dominated by a towering machine. Its design was alien yet oddly familiar, pulsating with a faint, rhythmic glow. Panels covered in intricate patterns lined the walls, and a central console stood at the heart of the room. "This is it," Isaac breathed, awe evident in his voice. "Genesis Nexus." Lucas approached cautiously, scanning the device. "It's still operational, barely. But activating it could destabilize the entire system. Are we sure about this?" Maya stepped forward, her expression resolute. "We didn't come all this way to walk away empty-handed. Let's figure out how it works." As they began examining the controls, the station trembled suddenly, throwing them off balance. Dust rained from the ceiling, and distant rumbling echoed through the corridors. On the monitors above the console, an image flickered to life. Zarnek's face, smug and triumphant. "You didn't think I'd let you have it all to yourselves, did you?" he sneered. Behind him, krill ships descended upon the station, their weapons trained on Shadow Asterisk. Ethan's voice crackled over their comms. "Maya, we've got incoming. You need to decide, activate it or destroy it." The team exchanged panicked glances. Time was running out, and the choice ahead would shape the future of the galaxy. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of Genesis Nexus and the distant rumble of Krill ships closing in. Maya, Lucas, and Isaac stood frozen, their minds racing as Ethan's voice echoed in their ears. Activate it or destroy it, he had said. The weight of the decision pressed down on them like the gravity of a collapsing star. Lucas was the first to speak, his voice trembling but resolute. If we activate it, Zarnak will take control. He'll use it to dominate the galaxy, or worse. Maya clenched her fists, staring at the glowing machine. And if we destroy it, we lose any chance of using it ourselves. What if we need it later? What if humanity needs it? Isaac stepped closer to the console, his eyes scanning the panels. There's another option. We dismantle it, scatter its components, so no one can use it. Not Zarnak, not the Council, not anyone. But can we even do that? Maya asked. This thing looks like it's been here for centuries. What if we trigger something we can't stop? Lucas nodded grimly. He's right. If we try to break it apart without knowing how, we could cause a chain reaction. This station might collapse, or worse, destabilize the dying star outside. Time was slipping away. Alarms blared as Krill forces breached the outer levels of the station, their heavy footsteps growing louder with each passing second. Maya glanced at her teammates, seeing the same mix of fear and determination in their eyes. They had come too far to back down now. All right, she said finally, her voice steady. We dismantle it, but we work fast. Isaac pulled up schematics on his tablet, piecing together what he could from the ancient data. There are core modules connected to the mainframe. If we disable those, the system should shut down permanently. Lucas grabbed tools from his pack and handed them out. Let's spread out, focus on different sections, but stay in contact. If anything goes wrong, we pull out immediately. They moved quickly, prying open panels and cutting through cables. Sparks flew as they worked, the air thick with the smell of burnt metal. Each action felt like walking a tightrope over an abyss. They were tampering with technology far beyond their understanding, and one wrong move could spell disaster. As Maya disconnected a critical module, the ground shook violently. A loud crash echoed through the station as part of the ceiling collapsed, narrowly missing her. She stumbled but kept going, sweat dripping down her face inside her helmet. Krill forces are inside, Ethan shouted over the comms. You've got maybe 5 minutes before they reach you. Lucas cursed under his breath, his hands shaking as he worked to disable another section. Almost done here. Just hold on. Isaac's voice cut through the chaos. I've isolated the main power conduit. Once I sever it, the whole thing shuts down, but we won't have time to escape cleanly. Do it, Maya ordered. We'll deal with the rest. With a final surge of effort, Isaac severed the conduit. The machine let out a low groan, its glow dimming as systems powered down. The team regrouped near the staircase, breathing heavily but alive. We did it, Lucas said, relief washing over him. It's over. But Maya shook her head. Not yet. Let's get out of here before Zarnak realizes what we've done. As they sprinted back toward Shadow Asterisk, the station began to collapse around them. Debris rained down, forcing them to dodge falling chunks of metal and stone. Behind them, Krill soldiers shouted angrily, realizing too late that Genesis Nexus was beyond their grasp. Reaching the ship just in time, Maya fired up the engines and launched into space. Behind them, the derelict station crumbled into the dying star, consumed in a brilliant flash of light. Back on Earth, Ethan watched the news reports pour in. Humanity had made its choice, not to wield unimaginable power, but to prevent anyone else from doing so. It was a decision born of sacrifice, courage, and hope for a better future. Far away, Zarnak stared at the wreckage, his face twisted in rage. For now, his plans were thwarted, but the galaxy was vast, and opportunities for conquest were endless. The battle may have ended, But the war was far from over. The journey back to Earth was quiet, the kind of silence that follows a storm. Maya piloted Shadow with steady hands, her mind replaying the events at the derelict station. Beside her, Lucas and Isaac sat in reflective silence, each lost in their own thoughts. They had succeeded in dismantling Genesis Nexus, but none of them felt triumphant. The weight of what they had done and what they had prevented was too heavy for celebration. When they returned, humanity greeted them as heroes. News of their mission spread quickly, though details were kept vague to avoid panic. Ethan addressed the world from a global summit, his voice carrying both pride and solemnity. "Today we chose not to wield power," he said, standing before a crowd of leaders and citizens. "We chose responsibility. In doing so, we proved that humanity's strength lies not in domination, but in unity and restraint." Rachel Monroe covered the story, her article capturing the moment's significance without revealing classified information. She wrote about courage under pressure, about ordinary people making extraordinary choices. Her words resonated deeply, sparking conversations across colonies and cities. For the first time in years, humanity seemed to share a common purpose, not just survival, but progress on its own terms. But beyond Earth's borders, reactions were mixed. The Galactic Council watched silently, their leaders divided over how to respond. Some saw humanity's actions as reckless. Others viewed them as a sign of maturity. Zarnak seethed in private, plotting his next move while consolidating his forces. Though Genesis Nexus was gone, he knew there were other ways to seize control. The Krail Syndicate would bide its time, waiting for another opportunity to strike. Isaac returned to EOS poring over data recovered during the mission. He couldn't shake the feeling that Genesis Nexus held secrets they hadn't fully uncovered. Fragments of code hinted at applications beyond reshaping star systems, possibilities tied to the very fabric of reality itself. While he archived the findings securely, he vowed never to let such knowledge fall into the wrong hands again. Maya spent her days repairing Shadow, her trusted ship battered but still intact. When she wasn't working, she found herself staring out at the stars, wondering what else lay hidden in the vastness of space. The mission had changed her, leaving scars both visible and invisible. Yet she felt stronger, more certain of her place in the universe. Lucas threw himself into developing new technologies, determined to ensure humanity would never be caught off guard again. His designs focused on defense and exploration, tools meant to protect rather than harm. He often worked late into the night, driven by the memory of the risks they had taken and the lives they had saved. As weeks turned into months, life began to settle into a fragile normalcy. Colonies thrived, trade routes reopened, and Earth grew more united than ever before. But beneath the surface, tensions lingered. Humanity's departure from the Council had shifted the balance of power, creating opportunities for allies and enemies alike. In the shadows of space, unseen forces continued to stir. Factions within the Council debated whether to punish or reconcile with Earth. Rogue groups tested boundaries, probing for weaknesses. And somewhere far away, Zarnak plotted his revenge, vowing to make humanity pay for denying him ultimate power. Yet despite these uncertainties, hope endured. Humanity had faced its greatest test and emerged stronger, not through weapons or alliances, but through choices rooted in integrity and resolve. The day humans left the Galactic Council marked the beginning of a new chapter, one defined not by fear, but by possibility. For now, the galaxy remained silent, watching and waiting. Whatever came next, humanity would face it together, armed with the belief that the future was theirs to shape. And in the endless expanse of stars, that belief burned brighter than any sun.